Joburg seriously dribbled me when I arrived, okay? Hi guys, my name is andiswa.mojapelo and welcome back to my channel. So if you're a returning subscriber or you've watched some of my videos, then you'll notice that the atmosphere is a bit different today and a lot more chilled and laid back. And that's because we're doing a story time. So this was inspired by a conversation I had with someone. I was helping an individual that I've known for a couple of years now with an interview. And she said to me, you know, Andy, so you're so happy that you must be so happy that your career just took off and straight after varsity, you got comfortable and you got into what you love. And, you know, you've been with the same employer for a couple of years now. And, you know, basically she was hinting at the fact that things have been rosy. And my immediate response was, what on earth gives you that idea? And she says, I mean, I don't know. I've just watched your career grow and I've watched you do what you love, etc. So I thought everything was okay. And I was like, nah, far from it. Okay. And then I continued to tell her my story of how Joburg seriously dribbled me when I arrived, okay, like in a serious way. And I thought that I'd share this with you as well as part of the adulting segment, because sometimes you look at a person doing well, or rather like being in a good space, and you think that their journey was just a straightforward one going straight up, and it's hardly ever the case. But maybe it's because people don't share. They don't share the downfalls or the things that didn't go according to plan. So that's what I'm doing today. I'm telling you about my story of the job that didn't make it to my CV because my boss didn't pay me. It's funny now. It wasn't funny then. But you know, once you pass something, you look back and you just appreciate the lessons that were learned. Cool. Disclaimer before I start. I've got a very supportive family and I've got a very supportive circle of friends who really love me and are always ready to just help me with whatever I need. So most of them will be hearing the story for the very first time. That's because I didn't tell them, right? I'm one person who's very independent. I want to do things myself, especially if there's been people who said I can't do it, then I definitely make it a point to make a success of that particular thing. So I don't want anyone calling me after this on some, oh, why didn't you tell us? You know, we could have done something to help you. We could have called someone, you know, we could have taken you in. I know you could have and would have, but I seriously wanted to get this done on my own. And that's why I didn't talk to anybody about it. So now to the story. A bit of context first, right? In the year 2015, this was my last year in varsity. So I had a part-time job during the holidays. I mentioned this in my very first YouTube video, but just to say it again, I had a part-time job, seasonal job every season. So I worked in June, September, and December, sometimes in March as well, or April, depending on how busy Easters were. And in that same job, my mom also worked for the same company. So, which worked out great for me because I had free accommodation, free food, and I didn't need transport because she lived in staff quarters. So it was a good deal. Anyway, so I come back for my December gig, and it was November at the time, and I had just written my final exams at varsity for my final year, and I was waiting for my results. Pressuring times, very pressuring times. Ugh, okay, so I'm waiting for my results, and I come home, and then Umama, the next day, she's like, hi. So anyway, I just wanted to tell you that this month is going to be my last month and I'm no longer working after this. And I'm like, what? She's like, no, I've decided to leave my job because Anditiwena, you are done with school now and you finished. So there's no need for me to work anymore because you're my last born. And I was like, done with school, I'm still waiting for my results. What do you mean? And you know, when course was chowing the whole year, and then you're like so nervous waiting for results. And for Umama to come and tell me that, you know, she's done with working, she's retiring, and she was 55 at the time. And she's like, she's so tired, she's retiring. She feels like, you know, she has enough now to sustain herself, especially because she's in the rural areas. So she doesn't really have a lot of running costs. And she had saved up some money. She felt like she could afford to stop working, and of course her last born was now going to work, so she didn't need to have a job anymore because she didn't have any dependents. The stress, guys, the stress of those results, knowing that my mom has now left her job. Anyway, So I wait for my results and I'm like, okay, cool. Now the pressure of getting a job is obviously like a lot more than it was before, because now I've got Umama here who's now no longer going to be working and stuff like that. So I start my seasonal gig and I start working in December. And then, so yeah, life goes on as usual. I usually stop working in mid-January of the next year. So I work the entire December and then I stop working around the 10th of January or the 6th of January, depending on how busy things were. So by then, Umama had already gone home, packed her stuff, and I was left alone. Cool. Now I am applying. Actually, I've been applying since June of my final year for grad programs and getting that we regret to, we regret to, we regret to. You guys know how it goes. So I was getting those we regret to from June right up until December. And then I was working in December and Jan. And then after that, from January, when I stopped working at my seasonal job, I went back again and I was just online trying to apply for jobs, Then I think at the end of January, this particular opportunity, which is the reason for my video today, came about, right? And I saw a job on Gumtree. Yeah, it was on Gumtree. Maybe that should have been warning number one, but honestly, what did I know? I was desperate. I had been applying and being rejected. I just needed an opportunity. So I saw an opportunity on Gumtree that I applied for. It had trainee business consultant as a grad program. Cool. So I tell myself, this is great. I look at what they need. I qualify. They want a BCom degree. I meet those requirements. No experience needed. It's an internship. Everything is sharp. I go through the application process. They send me an email to say, I've been shortlisted. After that, I do an online interview because the company is based in East London, Eastern Cape. So I do an online interview because although I was in Eastern Cape, I was at Bizana, which is quite a distance from East London. So cool. So I go through the application and then I go through the online interview and I get the position. The owner of the business tells me, okay, you've been successful, you got the job. So I'm like, okay, cool, that's great. Now we're having a conversation about the terms, what's involved, etc., right? Which is also number two, something you should discuss upfront, especially if it's a small company and a small business. It's so important to ask the right questions. And I know that sometimes you're so desperate to get that opportunity that you just like hire me, and you don't care about asking the questions. But that was a mistake on my part. I really should have asked the questions. So then I start asking, okay, cool. So how long is the grad program or internship? What does it entail? How will I move? How does accommodation and everything work? Then the owner of the business, or rather the CEO, says to me that it's a 3-month internship. And I was like, 3 months? And he's like, yeah, it's a 3-month internship. And he told me what I would earn. I think it was 6,000 Rand. Yeah, 6,000 Rand. And at the time, I thought, if I keep my living expenses very low, then I should have enough money, to sustain myself. Because honestly, when you've got zero experience and you're looking for an opportunity, for me, it wasn't about the money. It was about just getting enough to pay for my living expenses while I work my way up. I've always felt that way, and I didn't really, it wasn't about the amount. So this for me was more than enough to cover my expenses if I kept them really low, and it was going to work out. And then he's like, yeah, but then, you need to move to East London and stuff like that. And then initially I wanted to take the job and I was excited, but then I thought, like it's 3 months, I need to relocate, and the amount is like, now you start thinking a bit more. Is it enough? Is it going to cover my relocation costs, my accommodation and everything, right? And then so I communicate with him after that and I say, look, I'm a bit uncomfortable because of like the short term that it is and stuff like that. And I don't know, I don't really know anyone in East London. I didn't know anyone in East London at the time. So I don't know if I'm comfortable like relocating to a place where I don't know anyone. I don't have any family or anything. And I'm an intern and it's only 3 months. Then he says to me, well, do you have any family or like people that you know in Joburg? And I was like, why? And then he says, well, we also want to open up an office in Joburg. So you could go to that office. So I was like, And the people who know me will tell you that I've been wanting to go to Joburg for the longest time. So for me, this is like a ticket there. I was like, this is my ticket to Johannesburg and I'm going to get there and I'm going to make it work, all I need is an opportunity. So then I asked him, what happens after the 3 months? And then he's like, after the 3 months, what happens is that, I mean, if you prove to be, highly skilled and you prove to have learned a lot and you really know how to perform your duties the way you're supposed to, then obviously I'll make you permanent, but it all depends. And in my head, I know I'm a diligent person, and I know that I give my all to my work. I've been working before, not permanently, but I have been working before, part-time and, seasonal and stuff like that. So I know that given the opportunity, I'm going to make a success out of it and I'll probably get permanent. I'm sure of it. Sharp. Tell my family, hey, I'm moving to Johannesburg for this opportunity. So your friend leaves out the fact that it's a 3 month opportunity, because I felt like that would make a lot of people a bit uneasy, and make me question my decision. Nonetheless, even though I said it's a year, it's a grad program for a year, there were still some people who are very adamant that it's a bad idea because, I mean, Johannesburg is really big. Apparently, I'm too young and, it's just going to be a mess and it's not going to work out. It's dangerous and whatnot. But I ignored all of that because I was like, I just need to get to Johannesburg. I've got a plan. And one of my plans was the fact that I was tutoring part-time at the time for a company called Teach Me Too. And Teach Me Too also is also in Johannesburg. So my plan was that I'd also tutor in Johannesburg on weekends and after hours while working as a trainee, right? And then I'll save up a lot of money and I'll be fine. Little did I know that if you are in Johannesburg and you don't have a car, you're traveling around here without transport is such a challenge, honestly. Maybe it's a challenge for me because I come from Durban, but I don't know anybody. You can let me know if you agree or you don't agree. But personally, I think it was way easier for me to navigate my way around Durban than it was Johannesburg. Haike Usisako moves to Johannesburg for the grand opportunity. And one of the things that I did, which was very smart, is that I was very intentional about keeping my costs as low as possible. So what I did was I went on Gumtree and I looked for accommodation that was really, really cheap and that I was going to share. So I looked for a fully furnished apartment that already had someone in it, and that I was just going to pay half of the rent for. And then I found an individual who was renting a bachelor flat in Johannesburg, downtown. So coming from Durban, I have an idea of what town looks like, right? And it was not what I found when I got to Johannesburg. But the point is that the rent was like less than 3,000 Rand. And, with food and everything, I think my contribution towards the place was like 2.5. So in my head, 2.5 for rent and food, and then 500 Rand for transport meant with 3,000 Rand, half of what I was going to earn, I would cover my expenses. And, I'd be living at 50%. I'd be able to save and everything was going to be fine, right? Got to Johannesburg, first realization, I can't work part-time because I don't have a car. And I'm in downtown Johannesburg. Those are not where my clients are, right? So most of the people that I tutor are usually in the very like suburb, up class places, because that's where like you usually find people who can afford private tutorials for their kids. So I couldn't get around. So that opportunity was out the window, but I was still focused on the fact that my expenses are very low. This guy's going to pay me 6,000 Rand. It's going to cover my expenses and I'll still be able to save some money while doing that. I start working. Okay, so I get to Johannesburg, right? And then when I get to Joburg, on the first day of work, which I think was the 1st of February, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah, I think it was I literally paused to check my contract because I have it here for facts in case I need them, and also because I've just kept it. So my contract commenced on the 15th of February. So I get there, and then the first thing I noticed was the offices were in a very dodgy place, a very dodgy part of Braamfontein. And it was just not what I expected. I'm not sure what I expected from a small business. Maybe it was me and not understanding how things work in the beginning. But the place was very dodgy. And on the first day, I met the CEO's business partner who was also there, and he was supposed to show me around until the CEO would fly out from East London and come and join us in Johannesburg in a few days that week. So I get there and there's an empty desk. There's no laptop or PC. I tried to connect with the Wi-Fi to the Wi-Fi with my phone. There's no Wi-Fi. And then, so I asked, what's going on? What am I going to work from? Or what am I going to work with? And then the guy didn't seem to know what's going on as well. And he just said, contact your boss and then he'll let you know. So I call him and then I'm like, I don't see any working stuff, And then he's like, no, don't you have a laptop? And I'm like, I do have a laptop from varsity, but what about internet connectivity? And then he's like, no, like I'm just going to sort out Wi-Fi in a couple of days. So some people who like recognize the signs and who've been in the same situation will recognize the pattern of events. I was still kind of suspicious, but also just like maybe things will get better and let me not jump to conclusions. I'm already in the city. Let me make it work. So I use my laptop and then now I'm using my phone to connect. And he is sending work, like he's sending work, but, and I'm submitting work, but like he's not here, like he hasn't arrived. He was supposed to come in the first week, but he's not there. So he arrives in the second week and now we have a conversation, now from 15th Feb, we having a conversation, I think towards the end of Feb, and we're talking and stuff like that. And then he's in the office. And then he's like, okay, cool. I'm impressed with what you're doing. And it's so nice to finally meet you and so on and so on. So I have an honest conversation with him and I'm like, look, boss man, it's a bit tight. I'm using my own data to connect because you're still fixing the Wi-Fi. I'm using my own laptop, which is fine because I have a laptop. But I'm also using my own money for transport. And, I really relocated to come and work here. So it's a bit tight, And then it's like, no, don't worry. You get paid at the end of every month and you haven't worked a full month, but I'll pay you pro rata at the end of Feb and then on the end of the month thereafter, So don't worry, you'll be sorted. Cool. A couple of weeks pass by. Now it's the end of Feb. I keep quiet at the end of Feb. I'm still working, submitting stuff to him. He's giving me training. Everything is fine. Well, everything is not fine because I'm using my own money to work, right? And everything else. And I haven't seen like a cent of support, even from a resource perspective from this guy. But Andis was a diligent worker. So she's giving it her all and she's just getting into this opportunity. And she's happy to be in Joburg. So the end of the Feb comes and then it's like the 3rd or the 4th, right? Or the 5th. Call my boss. I'm like, my guy, what's happening? And then he's like, no, I had problems at the bank, blah, 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 blah. And, like I'm trying to sort it out. And, I'll make a plan. Don't stress too much about it. I'm like, I am stressing about it because I don't have an income. I'm in a foreign place. And what am I supposed to do? And also the fact that I'm actually using my own resources for work is an added drain to this entire situation. It's not okay. This on the other side, my mom is calling, and everybody's calling to find out how things are going. And I'm like, things are fine in Johannesburg. It's great, work is okay. And because I have a bit of savings, I'm able to like pay my way so far. Because my mom had given me obviously enough for the month and now the month has passed, but I also have a bit of savings. So I'm like, okay, cool. I can probably survive till the 15th, like a full month or whatever, like till the 15th of March, till this guy sorts me out. Guy gives me the runaround for like a couple of weeks now. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Right. And I'm just what am I going to do? I'm going to run out of cash and then I'm going to have to go back home. And, everybody knows that I'm in Joburg. Everybody knows that I'm doing well. Meanwhile, I'm going through the most. I'm trying to save as much as possible and live on as little as possible. This guy's not paying me. I'm using my own resources to work. And now I have to look for a job because obviously like snap back a few weeks and rewind. I started looking for work as soon as that guy did not pay me at the end of Feb. I started looking for a job like crazy. So, and then he does not pay me. Like he does not pay me at the end of Feb. And then come 15th of March, he still does not pay me. And it's been a month now. And he's just giving me the run around and he's keeping quiet. He's also stopped sending me work. Guys, I was so stressed and I was so stressed and I was talking to my roommates about it. And I'm like, I'm really worried. I don't want to go back home. There's a lot of people who thought that this is going to go downhill. And now I'll be proving them right if I just go back home with my tail between my legs. Again, I do have supportive friends and family. I mean, there's this particular friend of mine who even offered me her parents' home, and she was like, you can stay at my place. She was living in Joburg at the time, but she was living in Durban at the time, but she's originally from Joburg. So she was like, you can stay with my parents. And I'm like, stay with your parents without you there. What is that? So I did have like support, but I wanted to make it work on my own. And honestly, if there's anyone who has a small business and who's employing people, please try to not exploit graduates. Like, we are desperate. We were in need, or rather, I was at the time, because I'm not in that space anymore. Please try to not exploit people who really need an income and who really need an opportunity. Anyway, the guy did not pay me. I was in Joburg without an income, and I couldn't tutor or side hustle like I did when I was in Durban. So what happened, or rather how the story ends, is that so he didn't pay me the 15th of March, and then I stopped going to work. Obviously, like by the 15th, I stopped going to work because he wasn't answering my emails, he wasn't communicating with me. So after that, like, I just started applying like crazy, like applying everywhere and with everything that I have. And then eventually, I got a job offer. So I went through a couple of assessments, and I had never prayed like that in my life. I really wanted that job. It was another grad program, but this time it was at a reputable company. It was at a reputable company. It was a great opportunity. And I applied there. I went through the assessment process and I got the job. So I actually got the job. I think they sent me the employment contract on the 17th or 18th of March. I think they sent it to me on the 17th or 18th of March. And then I was going to start on the 22nd of March. Another stress for me was the fact that I'm starting a new job. I need transport money. I need clothes. I need things that I don't have. And I obviously can't call my mom because she knows that I've already been paid by my other job. And it was all a mess. But fortunately, because honestly, God, this specific company, although I started on the 22nd of March, they actually decided to pay us, the interns, on the 25th of March, right? Imagine that. Just 3 days later, I got a bit of income. Not my entire month's salary, but it was more than enough to just sustain me because my living expenses were really low. So I started working there on the 22nd of March. And I basically never looked back. And I've been with the same employer since then. I really love it. I love working there. I do what I love on a daily basis. And honestly, I just wanted to share my story because if you're in a situation now where you're going through the most, you've been exploited, and you just feel like, is this even worth it? Is it ever going to change? It does change. It really does. Just keep your head up high, keep your confidence, make sure that you are applying, applying, applying. People often ask me, how did I get my current opportunity, or rather the step in? Honestly, it was online. I applied online with zero connections, zero referrals, or anything like that. When I first got my graduate opportunity in the company that I'm in now, that's how I got in. It was a clean cut application. So continue applying, keep your head high, hope for the best. And really, it does come to fruition. And that's why I wanted to share my story, to say that you will get there, right? And there's a lot that you go through before that, but you definitely will get there. And also to share my story and say to the people who do give job opportunities, particularly the small businesses, please, if things are tough, then at least try and communicate with your employees and say, look, guys, this is what's happening. This is what I can do and this is what I can't do. In hindsight, I don't regret taking my red suitcase, which was all I had, and moving into a dodgy place because it got me to where I am now. I learned a lot of lessons after that. One of the things I did is that in my first year of working in 2016, I just built up my emergency fund because I was so scared that I wouldn't get paid. I know now, like, it sounds crazy, but I just felt like if they stop paying me or they don't pay me, where am I going to get money to live? So that year, I just focused on building my emergency fund. I kept my expenses that low and I was earning more now. So it allowed me to like build and build and build and build on my emergency fund. So In hindsight, it was a great lesson to learn, and I got a lot out of it. I got a great opportunity in the end. But yeah, man, just soldier on, push through. Things do get better. I hope you enjoyed my story. I wanted to share because sometimes I don't feel like listening to motivation. I just feel like listening to someone say, I went through it, I got the t-shirt, and I got out of it. So thank you for watching my video. Please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the story time so I can share more, and make sure that you subscribe if you haven't. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.